Hello and welcome to another video. Today is just a standard update podcast and I'll be talking through everything that I made in the months of June and July. This video is coming out a little bit later than I had hoped. I had to switch some things around because I had a bit of life stuff going on and I prioritised a video that was more ready to go so that I could get something out last fortnight. Otherwise, I would have had to skip another couple of weeks. So I am bringing you my update. It's a little late. Please forgive me. And let's get diving into my finished objects, whips, and some future project plans. My first finished object that I have to show you are a pair of vanilla socks. These are a self-drafted pair of socks that I have made for my mum. These are made out of hedgehog fibres sock for the main body in the colour Harbour and Filcolana Aweta in the colour 371 for the cuff, heel and toe. These socks are a 38 stitch circumference and I used a 2.25mm needle. I used 50 grams of yarn for the hedgehog fibres and about 15 grams of the Filcolana Aweta. And these took me 22 days. These are objectively some of the most beautiful socks I've ever made, mostly due to this beautiful main colour of hedgehog fibres yarn. These were featured on my last podcast episode as a whip, so I won't go into too much detail. But for those of you who didn't see that video, I was making a pair of socks for myself in this hedgehog fibres yarn while I was at home in Ireland visiting my parents. My mum saw and really loved the colour, and I had enough yarn to make a pair of socks for her as well. My mum picked out her own contrast colour as well, and I got started on these, and these are going to become part of her Christmas present. I fixed my mistake that I did on my own pair of socks on these ones. So on my own pair of socks, I did a heel flap and gusset, which interrupts the stripe of the main colour and makes it look a little bit weird around the heel while you do the gusset decreases. So for this one, I went for a German short row heel, and because of that, it just makes a really beautiful uniform pair of socks. I always use the Knitting with Suzanne Bryan's video on how to do a German short row heel without having to do the contrast rows in the body of the sock. It's a great video. She tells you how to do both ways of the heel, both with a contrast and without a contrast. It's a fantastic video. I would recommend it. Because these are so beautiful, I'm actually a little bit sad that they are not for me. Unfortunately, they are too small for me, so I can't even hope that my mum forgets that they're for her. But never mind, these are beautiful. I can't wait for my mum to see them in their finished state, and hopefully she'll enjoy having them for Christmas. On to my next finished object. This is the Lulu Slipover by Petite Knit. I made this out of Sandnesgarn Peer Gynt in the colour Navy Tweed. I made the size 4 or the size large. I used 4.4mm for the body, 3.5 for the ribbing and 2.5mm for the double knitted edges. I used 356 grams of yarn in total, and this took me 39 days. Even having this just on my lap is too hot. We're still in the middle of London heatwave madness, and it's too hot to have pure wool on my lap. So I'm gonna maybe try and talk through this one quickly. This also featured as a whip in my last video. I was so close to finishing it, and it was this heat that actually stopped me. But since then, I have been able to finish off all of the side edges as well as sew on these beautiful buttons. Look how cute these are. I love the buttons. I think they really just bring the whole thing into a whimsical area. I cannot wait until the weather cools down enough for me to wear this. One of my No.9 squares for this year was more vests because I've been really enjoying wearing them, and having this done means that I have officially ticked off that square on my No.9. Like I said, the pattern is a Petite Knit pattern and it is characteristically very easy to follow, even on the techniques that I hadn't done before. I'd never done these double knitted button plackets before. I've done like a full button band, but these are just little ones up the side. And it was very clear, very easy, as is a standard for petite knit patterns. I think this just makes a beautiful piece. The yarn has turned out a little bit rougher than I would like. It definitely softened up after blocking, and I am very grateful about that. But I am still slightly nervous about how this feels, especially right at the top of my neck. If it does bother me, I will probably reserve this for wearing with collared shirts. Either way, I will have to leave wearing this for a little while it is so hot, but pieces like this that I'm making just get me so excited for the autumn to roll around. So I will put this away for now, and I will wait until the cooler weather to try it out. The next finished object that I have is a Camisole No.9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. This is made out of Tribe Yarns Merino Bamboo Silk. I made this in a size 3, which is a size medium. I used 3mm for the body, 2.5mm for the bottom edge, and 2mm for the neck and armhole edges. I used 120 grams of yarn, and I finished this in 25 days. This is my latest Camisole No.9, as you may have figured by the one I'm wearing right now. I utterly love this pattern, and I've been enjoying making different iterations of it. This is now my third, and I made a couple of modifications with this one. Firstly, this is made with a yarn that I've never used before. I used a merino, bamboo and silk blend, and it is so soft. I am so excited to start wearing this. It has the heftiness of wool, but the sheen and just shininess of the silk and bamboo. So I think it will give it a good balance of warm weather and cold weather properties. I'm so glad I took a chance on this yarn, but the one thing I did not do, which is very bad of me, is make a gauge swatch. As I said, I've made this pattern 3 times. I thought I knew my size because the 2 that I have already fit me really well. That was not the case. I cast it on. I got as far as joining under the underarms, and that's usually the point where I try things on once I've done a couple of inches below the armpit, and it was way too big. So I actually had to rip this all out and start again with a smaller size, and I'm really glad I took the time to do that. It was a little bit annoying, but this is a much better size for me. The other modification I made to this pattern is it's the first time that I tried waist shaping. I don't know, there we go, I don't know if you can see that, but down both sides I decreased 4 stitches every 4 rows. I did a bunch of maths to figure out how much I needed to decrease by to get to my waist circumference, and that's the rate that I settled on. And because of that, this is now the best fitting garment that I own. It is not too tight, it fits really beautifully on my body, and I'm so happy with it. I want to add waist shaping into more things now just because of how successful this is. Once I'd finished the waist shaping, I went straight into the hem, and it turned out the perfect length as well. So just really proud of myself for doing all those calculations and implementing it very successfully. One modification that I make that's the same in all of my Camisole No.9s is I cannot be bothered with the fancy sewn hems. I just do a standard folded hem, so I don't turn my work and knit the wrong way. I just do a normal folded, and then I actually knit it down on the inside rather than sewing it. I will admit it looks very pretty in the pattern, and when I've seen people do it on their finished garments, it looks great. I just don't have the patience for it. This is far quicker for me, and I think it does still create an effective edging. It looks neat, it looks polished. That's all I need. I don't need anything too fancy. It's the alternate edging that comes in the pattern, and I have done it for all of my Camisole No.9s, so it's the edging that I prefer. Overall, I am very pleased with this finished object. It has rapidly become my favourite Camisole No.9 for a number of reasons. I would say that 3 Camisole No.9s is probably enough, but I love this pattern so much and it comes with so many things that you can modify and change, so never say never. There'll probably be more. I'm going to quick fire my next 5 finished objects because they all feature in the video that I released a fortnight ago, so I'm not going to repeat what I said in that video. If you didn't watch my last fortnight's video, go and watch it and you will see all of these lovely things that I made. But during that little summer scrap busting challenge, I finished 5 objects. I made the Country Road bandana by Celeste Knitwear, the Garden Vines bandana by My Knit Projects, the Pointel triangle shawl that I modified into a bandana by Johanna Sholiok, a little ribka pouch by Rat and Sea Witch, and a little self-drafted scrunchie. Go and watch that video for information on all of those projects. I was really proud of it and it didn't do as well as I'd hoped, which kind of doesn't matter because I really enjoyed making it. But if any of those projects interested you, do go watch that video and I hope you like it. That's all of my finished objects, so we are going to move on to my whips. First up is an update on my temperature blanket. Like I said in my last update video, I'm not getting this out. It's too big. You can see it right here in this corner, and I will go and take some B-roll and insert it while I'm talking, but I'm just not gonna hold it up for you while I talk about this. For those of you who don't know about my temperature blanket, I started making this blanket 2.5 years ago on my 30th birthday, and it uses historical data for the year that I turned 30. I thought it would take me a year. We're here 2.5 years later, and I am determined to get it done before my 33rd birthday in November. It's currently going through its last hibernation as the weather has become unbearable for me to be working on it. But before that, I was doing a little bit of a challenge to knit a row every day for 42 days. That was very successful, and I now have 27 rows left to do. The plan for the last few rows is I get back from holiday midway through September. I'm then going to start another challenge where I do 1 row a day until it's finished. So hopefully that takes me to finishing it actually in October rather than November, which gives me a little bit of room for me to have another birthday project this year. But I also just want a bit of a buffer in case life happens or this heat wave never ends. So I am still letting myself have until my birthday to finish it. But I'm going to pick it up again mid-September. Hold me to account. I'm so excited to have this project finished, and I feel like it's becoming more and more tangible the more I do. So this feels like it's going to happen this year. I feel really good about having it finished this year. My next whip is a pair of socks. I'm making a pair of Decathlon socks by Sue Granfield, and I'm going to have to read off what yarn I'm making these out of because it is French and I cannot pronounce it. I'm making these out of Williette Lan & Co. Sybil in the colour Sorbet au Café Fleur on 2.25mm needles, as I usually make my socks out of. And I have one finished and one halfway through the leg, almost halfway through the leg. I started these socks quite a while ago and accidentally put them down while I was making that summer scrap busting video. I also just stopped knitting on the tube because it was so sweaty. So because of that, these are coming along a lot slower than I thought they would. As you might notice, these socks are huge. That's because these are for my live-in partner. He actually picked out the yarn while we were in Paris. So these are going to be a birthday present for him, which also means I have to finish them before August 19th, and it's currently August 2nd. So I need to get a grip and get these finished. I am going back to Ireland to see my parents next weekend, so I'm hoping that with some plain knitting and some time at home, I'll be able to push through and get these done in time. I absolutely love the yarn for these. They are pooling in such a beautiful way. There's speckly pinks and fluorescent yellows and oranges. My partner did such a good job about choosing this yarn, and it's yet another example of I knit socks for somebody else and I want to keep them. But these are also not my size, obviously. They're huge. They're giant socks. So I'm totally jealous, but very happy for him. They're going to be wonderful. And my partner is one of the people who haven't actually had a pair of socks from me yet. So I think that'll be a nice milestone. This is also a fabulous pattern. I knew I wanted to do some kind of ribbed sock, but historically I don't like knitting rib. So instead I opted for a broken rib, which means you knit every other row and you're only ribbing for every other row. That really worked to break up the tedium of a rib sock. And I think it looks great. I really love how that broken rib stitch looks. So I did 2x2 rib at the top and broken rib all the way down. I also did the same trick that I used for my mum's sock, and I did the German short row heel because I didn't want the yarn to look any different post heel as it does on the leg. And I really like that for variegated yarn. As much as I love the fit and look of a heel flap and gusset, I think for variegated yarn, the German short row heel is just the better way to go. It just causes so few headaches. The slightly nerve-wracking thing about these socks is I weighed the yarn when I finished and I weighed the sock when I finished. It's exactly 50 grams. I obviously started with a 100-gram skein of yarn, and both the sock and the spare bit of yarn that I have got left over is 50 grams. I have no wiggle room, so I am really trying hard not to change my tension and not to cast on with too much extra yarn. Oh, I'm so nervous. I really hope I can finish this sock without running out of yarn. One of the things I'm doing is usually I would weave this end in and cut it, but I don't know, this might be the difference between finishing the sock and not finishing the sock. So I've left it so that if I do need to cut this end off and use it to finish the toe, I have that spare. I'm a little bit nervous because these are wonderful socks and I don't want to not finish them. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully my tension hasn't changed. My next whip, I am not going to go into detail over because I'm actually making a full project vlog about this, but I do want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I am self-drafting a dress in Knitting for Olive's Pure Silk Held Double. The top half is based on the Camisole No.9 pattern, but I had to modify it heavily to suit the gauge of the yarn that I wanted to use. And the skirt is all made up from my own head. So let me hold it up for you. Here it is. Oh my gosh, it's actually so big it might not fit into frame. I am making it in the poppy blue colour, which in this light, this colour makes me so happy. It was such an ordeal to pick a colour because I knew it was going to be quite an expensive project with the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk Held Double, and I knew it was going to be a long project because it's a dress. So I knew I'd be knitting it for a while and I wanted to pick a colour that made me happy and I thought I would wear a lot, and I just got a lot of joy out of handling. And I think this does it. I really like the poppy blue. I really like how blue looks on me. I think this is gonna be quite nice. Last night I reached the point where I am now halfway through the length of the skirt. I am up to 316 stitches on my needles. It takes me about 12 minutes to do a row now, and I'm only halfway. So it's a big endeavour, but I am loving it. I love how it fits. I'm not going to try it on for you in this video. If you are interested, I think this video will be coming out in September, all going well, of course. This is dependent on me finishing this. This is the biggest project I've ever done and the most I've ever modified / self-drafted a pattern. I'm really proud of it. I think it looks great. So stay tuned. I am actually enjoying making this so much that I'm dreaming of a lilac version of it with a different edging. I would have to majorly change my plans for the autumn winter time because, as you probably guess, knitting a dress takes quite a long time. But I also have this image in my head and I don't know if I can shake it. We'll see. And those are all of my whips. I actually have no acquisitions to show you this video, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I wanted to pull some things out of my scrap stash that I'm keen to work on in the next couple of months. Like I mentioned before, I am going to Ireland for a weekend to visit my parents, and I'm also going to Wales for 5 days. I'm going to be in a cabin with my partner and our friend and her fiance, and we're just gonna have a bit of a chill time. We're gonna walk Snowdon and go to the beach and mostly knit. Our friend also knits and is planning on bringing a few projects, so I think we will basically use it as a bit of a knitting retreat. I'm gonna pull out some yarns that I'm hoping to use up while I'm there. I have 3 lots of yarn that I'd like to use up in the next couple of months. And the first lot I have prepped all ready to go in a project bag. So I'll try and hold these up for you. I have a bunch of Lang Yarns Yavol scraps, as well as the brown Folkestone Harbour hand-dyed yarn. This I actually already know what I'm going to make. I'd like to make Olive's jumpsuit, which is a pattern by Pernille Larsen from Knitting for Olive. It's part of my move to start making a few baby presents for the people in my life who are currently pregnant or trying for kids. I just want to create a bit of a stash so that I'm not ever rushing to gift a baby item, that I'll have a couple just in a box with some sizes that are of different yarn weights and weather appropriatenesses that I can give out when I need them to. So this is part of my push for that. I would like to make it into a little rainbow jumpsuit. I think it'll look really cute. So that's what this lot of yarn is going to be, and hopefully that will be featured on the next podcast. We'll see. I've got a lot of things I need to finish and start, so we'll see how it goes. The next bunch of yarn I would like to use up is the rest of the merino bamboo silk that I have from Tribe Yarns, and also some merino silk that I have left over. That's from Creative Anarchy. This is their Bourgeois base, which is a merino silk blend. I would like to pair these to make either some kind of shawl or a top, mostly because I love how soft these yarns feel and it'd be really nice to make up another garment. But also I'm missing a bit of a shoulder cover up for when I go on holiday, and I think these yarns would pair quite nicely to make a shawl. One of the patterns that I'm quite drawn to is the Rosa by Colette Audrey. This pattern is already written for 2 colours, and I can really see in my head how it would look with these 2. The only downside is I don't know if I have enough yarn, and I'm a bit nervous to start, not knowing if this will be enough. But I think I should be able to modify it if I get to the point where it looks like I won't have enough. We'll have to see, but that currently is where I stand with these 2, but I'm open to changing my mind on these ones. The last collection of yarn that I'd really love to use up, but I'm less certain on what I want to do with, is this Holskarn Coast yarn in the colours Cassis and Lavender. These are a really interesting yarn. They are 55% lambswool and 45% cotton, and they're also 350 metres per 100 grams. So they are a very light fingering, and I think that's where I'm having trouble finding a pattern for these. I'd quite like to make these into a floaty summer top. I have a couple of patterns in mind, like the Lyra Tea by Irene Lynn or the Maya Summer Top by Bella Helms. Whatever I do, I'm gonna have to stripe it because I only have 1 ball of each colour. I don't have enough to make a solid coloured garment. The downside is I don't super love working with this, so I have to find a needle size that works, which means I'm then up against yarn chicken and if I have enough. So this may be the plan that falls to the wayside, but I would be so keen to have these used up and out of my stash because I just don't really know what to do with them. If you have made things with this yarn and you can suggest anything, more summer related if possible. I'm not quite ready to start winter knitting yet. If you have any ideas, let me know. I'd be very grateful. for your help. Thank you so much for sticking around while I showed you everything that I have finished and have been working on. How are your summer projects going? And if you're in Europe, how are you coping with this heat? This is the first year that I'm finding the weather is really impacting the projects and the yarn that I want to work on. And it's kind of wild to see what I'm drawn to or what I've been hibernating. I hope you're all staying as cool as you can. And for now, that's everything. And I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye.